Hello, my name is Augustine Ndangam, and I want to make a review of our struggle up to this point. Many of us know that shortly after we came into this fated union, the Republic of Cameroon decided to divide us into Northwest and Southwest, and pitted Northwest against the people of Southwest and the people of Southwest against the people of Northwest. Recently in this struggle, they have gone into their prison to twist the arms of our leader, SCAPO, to do certain things that are intended to divide us. Out on the field, they are working to pit the Muslims in Wum and in Kambe against the Christians to divide us. Meanwhile, the international community is pushing for dialogue, and it is a time to review what has happened, or what happened that we are in the place where we are. It is time to be careful how we handle this push for dialogue. It is also time to review, because the dialogue is not an idea now. Earlier in the cases in Banjul, the African Commission had offered to facilitate dialogue between the two states, and the two delegations, that representing the Southern Cameroons and that representing the Republic of Cameroon, accepted the dialogue on behalf of the two states, and the dialogue went nowhere. We did not see the light of day, and some of the things that we started in preparation are relevant today, and we need to review that. Everybody, I think practically every Southern Cameroonians know that the problem, our problem right now, is not something new. It happened, if you ask every Southern Cameroonian who has taken interest in the matter of his country or her country, he or she will tell you that it is decolonization. And that is correct. It's only when we go to ask what was wrong with the decolonization that some people may not actually sort this out. It was decolonization, and some people have called it a failed decolonization. Some people think our own decolonization was truth, trust, betrayed. Some people think it was an aborted or an unfinished exercise. But if you ask me, my own opinion is that it was all these and much more. It was a failed decolonization. It was truth betrayed. It was an aborted and unfinished exercise. It was all this and much more. Why do I say that? Evidence of failure, that it failed, is right before everybody, right before the world. The idea of decolonization from the point of view of the UN, the United Nations, was to transform states and territories that were under colonial rule to independence. It was not, I repeat, not to wipe or obliterate the territories or states that were under colonial rule. So the first evidence that it failed in Southern Cameroon is that what was British Cameroon does not exist. It failed. What was Southern Cameroon or Northern Cameroon does not exist. So it failed. The second thing we can say about the failure is that the conflict today in Southern Cameroon, so I'll limit myself to Southern Cameroon, but there's conflict too in the north, what was Northern Cameroon. The conflict is evidence of failure. If that territory, if British Southern Cameroon got its independence, as was in the charter, as it was in the trusteeship agreement, there will be no conflict today. So I am of the view that it failed. It was also a trust betrayed, as some writers have put it, and I will come to this when I go to the second part of this talk, to talk in relation to our administering authority. It was aborted. Again, I will talk about this in the second part of this talk. But it was much more. The idea of our present colonial ruler, if you take the speech of Ahidjo at the Iboloa UC Congress, he argued there that this Southern Cameroon was a territory, was part of their territory that was handed to the mother country. What happened in 1961 was UN and the UK returning back to the mother country part of their territory. It was not something about independence. This view, I think, is untenable. There's no evidence to support that what happened in 1961 was going back to the German colony. The second thing that the people of La République has said, one of the ministers in the government of La République openly told CRTV in Douala and international press that Southern Cameroons, he referred to Southern Cameroons to say that this was a territory that was ceded to them by the British and the United Nations. Well, that part of assertion or claim can only be answered by Her Majesty's government in the UK, whether it was ceded or not. But if you look at what happened before and at the departure of the British, that minister may be correct to say it was ceded. What we need to do now that there is pressure on dialogue is to make this review. This review I am making is purposeful because we need to understand certain things that happen and see how they affect us, or people are using what we as Southern Cameroons see as injustice that was done to us. We need to say it openly now, and we need to see why it was unjust to do that to us. We want to do this. I want to do this in this talk because one of the questions raised recently in Parliament in London was whether the Honorable Minister of African Affairs in the British government would receive Southern Cameroonians to talk about our problem, and she evaded or did not want to hear that. If the British government, that was our administering authority, will not listen to us, will not receive us, and hear the problem from our own standpoint, we have nothing but to come out in the open and speak about our problem in the open, but do so responsibly. We think that coming out in the open will also expand general awareness about our problem. So I will start by what went wrong with the Southern Cameroon's decolonization. And in this first part, I want to start with the Southern Cameroons and the United Nations. And in this part, I will just describe 4 or 5 points and leave you to draw the conclusion. Don't want to use the word injustice, but if you get the point clear, you'll see the injustice. The first thing, if we're saying anything about our decolonization, the first document that we must look at things from the point of view of that document is what I'm holding in my hand here. It is the Charter of the United Nations. Anything you are saying which is not inside here is just you are blah, blah, blah. But if it is stated here, and I'm going to restrict my talk to what is inside here, or what is in the trusteeship agreement, because for each trust territory, there is what is stated in the Charter of the United Nations, particularly in chapter 11 and 12, and what is written in the trusteeship agreement to ensure that what is inside here is executed. So I will restrict myself to what is in the Charter. The first thing that happened in our own decolonization of Southern Cameroons was a change of the roadmap. A change of the roadmap. You cannot read all of chapter 11 and chapter 12 inside this book. You can read just Article 73 and Article 76 in the Charter. And when I say the first major thing that happened was change of roadmap, I mean that what was written in the Charter, what was written in the trusteeship agreement was set aside, and a new idea was brought in to handle our own independence matter, and that was the plebiscite. So the first point we should note about Southern Cameroon's decolonization is that it did not follow what was written in the Charter. It did not follow what was written in the trusteeship agreement. Instead, Southern Cameroons was asked to vote in a UN plebiscite about independence. So that plebiscite that was conducted in 1961 about the independence for Southern Cameroons was a change of roadmap. And why was it not in our own interests? That plebiscite, although it is said that it was about independence, it was meant to the people of Southern Cameroon from becoming independent. The British did not hide this. They argued out in the United Nations and everywhere that Southern Cameroon was too small and too poor to become a sovereign state. This was the argument. And Sir Philipson, a British administrator, was asked by the government to write a book to prove that Southern Cameroon was both poor and too small and poor to become independent. That book, you cannot find it. I think nobody has it. Nobody wants it in the shelves of bookshops or anywhere, because the reverse came to light. If you take the Commonwealth, for instance, the size of Southern Cameroons, we are bigger than about 23 or 24 countries that are members, sovereign members of the Commonwealth. We're not small. And the only reason why the Republic is fighting, taking guns to fight us today, is because of the natural wealth. They think that the Lord Almighty gave us inside our soil, inside our territory, the oil. So that idea that we were small and poor was not right for us. It was just an excuse to deny our independence or give us something. It was not independence. The plebiscite that was conducted was about independence but had no option for independence. No option. Whichever way you voted to go to Nigeria, you voted, that did not mean Southern Cameroon was going to achieve independence. And we like to go back to that event and recall two political parties, two Southern Cameroon's political parties that we don't talk about them so much, but we should remember them because the vision of those political leaders was the right one. The political party called KUC, Cameroon's United Congress, of PM Kale, who was Speaker in our Southern Cameroon's House of Assembly. The political party CCC, Cameroon Commoners Party, of Chief S.E. Nyenti of Manu County. These two political parties wrote a petition to the United Nations, and they argued if this plebiscite is about our independence, we should be given a third option of independence. There should be three options. And today it's a fact, we can read it. The Trusteeship Council looked at these petitions and they said the political parties asking for this option, they are correct, they are right. It is their right to have a third option. The Trusteeship Council of the United Nations said this, but the British representative in the United Nations, Sir Andrew Cohen, opposed that idea and said that Her Majesty's government doesn't want that. Well, unfortunately for Southern Cameroons, the Trusteeship Council gave in and said if Her Majesty's government didn't want it, okay. So that was how a plebiscite about independence for Southern Cameroons emphasized then and even now that it was joining Nigeria or joining this. If you look at the way Resolution 1608 is worded, it is the idea of independence is separated from the idea of joining. The idea of independence is in paragraph 2 of the resolution. The idea of joining is separated and put in paragraph 4. The United Nations wanted to make it clear that it was about independence and it was about joining. But all of us have read what happened on the 21st of April, 1961, when the United Nations General Assembly met to do its own voting as to formalize, accept what the people of Southern Cameroon had voted for. And we know the figures. The UN General Assembly voted overwhelmingly to support the independence, to approve, to endorse the independence of Southern Cameroon. 64 against 23 countries voted to endorse independence. Therefore, the United Nations granted our independence. They granted it on the 21st of April 1961, and for that independence to take place on the 1st of October 1961. And the United Nations does not give independence 2 times. They gave our independence. If we have not enjoyed it for these 50-something years, we have asserted it now. We have asserted it, and we are going to defend it. This is where we are. I want to say, as we are speaking, we have restored our independence. It is not the kind of independence where we are seceding. It is not secession, where secession now happens in the world and it's been supported by the international community. I don't want to call names, but this one, we have our international boundary complete, mentioned and recognized in international instruments like the League of Nations instrument, the League of Nations mandate. It is mentioned and recognized in the trusteeship agreement of the United Nations. Our international boundaries is complete. And Southern Cameroon over the years has led delegations to the AU and placed documents before the AU, the treaties that set these international boundaries, and asked the AU to retrace those boundaries, calling the AU only this year. All this time that we had this problem with our brothers of the Republic of Cameroon, the Southern Cameroons has focused on the AU as the regional body responsible to solve African problems. We have led delegations to the AU. We have petitioned the AU. We have gone to AU structures to find a solution that is peaceful, that is legal, and we have, I think this year, decided that we have exhausted that focus. And it's disappointing. It's disappointing because the AU, even after the Republic of Cameroon picked guns to fight us, and after they have been slaying, they've been murdering, they've been killing our people in thousands, there's been massacre, genocide. The AU cannot show any action, has taken no action. What the AU has done, what they can show since this thing started, this conflict started on the African continent, is press release. They have written press release. It's regrettable. And we in Southern Cameroon this year, we think we should mark the AU as exhausted. I mean, we have exhausted what we could do. And we should not allow AU to say they are taking our matter, they'll lead the United Nations or anybody intervening, because we have focused for 50-something years with the AU and it's been a letdown. Now, we have said that the first thing that the United Nations did, which was unjust, is that they changed the roadmap, conducted a plebiscite on independence without the choice of independence. Then on the 21st, when they took the matter of the Southern Cameroons, 21st April, when they took the matter of the Southern Cameroons before the UN General Assembly, the UN General Assembly voted overwhelmingly in favor, in support of the independence of Southern Cameroons. But something striking, something spectacular happened during that vote. And that among the 23 countries that voted against our independence, against our joining the Republic of Cameroon, was the Republic of Cameroon. Can you imagine? Because people who are talking about these talks, we should form federation, we should get Biya to, they speak as though it is Mr. Biya who is to grant our independence. No, sir. No. The independence of Southern Cameroon's, the legitimate body in the world to grant or talk about our independence is the United Nations. It's not Mr. Paul Biya. It's not Mr. Paul Biya. So anybody, after this talk, we are going to see why it is not Biya who is granting us independence. And those coming in to say they want to arbitrate should get this point clear. What happened during the voting on the 21st of April 1961 is that the Republic of Cameroon voted against Southern Cameroon's independence. They voted against Southern Cameroon's joining them. I said this in the Congress Hall in Bamenda at a meeting that was for a different occasion, and some people shouted, "Hey!" Unfortunately, the person who was on the chair, who represented the governor, was a historian, and he supported me, so it's a fact. But it is something that the Biya regime does not want people to talk about. And we're going to talk about it now in every Njange house, every contributing house. The Republic of Cameroon voted against Southern Cameroon's independence. They voted against Southern Cameroon joining them. And when I spoke about this in Bamenda, I said that Southern Cameroon did not lobby for these 64 countries that voted for, who were not there in the United Nations. But you know, as a country, as a state, you know your friends. You know your friends in the world by their support when you were not there. All those countries that showed friendliness to the Southern Cameroons and voted to support them becoming independent are the friends of Southern Cameroons. And those who voted no to our independence, those who voted that we should not join the Republic of Cameroon, including Cameroon, are not our friends. They are not. They are not. They are pretending only now that we are because of the oil. That is as clear. It's because of the natural resources that we have. The head of state at the time, the first head of state of Cameroon, derided, mocked the idea that the administering authority, Britain, had said that Southern Cameroon was small and poor. And he said, so they regard the Republic of Cameroon as a dumping ground for things that are poor. So that if this territory was poor and Her Majesty's government could not spend its resources on Southern Cameroon, they should come and dump it to the Republic of Cameroon. And he gave instructions that his people should vote against our joining them. And they did. The records are there. Go to United Nations Library, look for 1608 and see the voting pattern. Look for Cameroon. They voted against our joining them. They voted against our independence. Okay. And this, you may ask, then what happened? Well, what happened was a simple thing. The head of state of Cameroon at that time was a Muslim. He was interested in that plebiscite from the standpoint that if the plebiscite went well, Northern Cameroon also joined Cameroon, then Northern Cameroon was and is Muslim-based. The Southern Cameroon was and is Christian-based. And Hijo did not see accepting the southern Cameroon that is basically Christian, was founded by Christian missionaries and has more Christians than Muslims, did not see, he just did not like the idea of joining them, and he gave his instructions, which was obeyed. But suddenly, news filtered that there was oil on the continental shelf of the southern Cameroons. Oh, so that news suddenly turned Ahidjo's heart and thinking, and suddenly southern Cameroon, that was being tossed and rejected as poor, unwanted material, suddenly became a high-valued pearl. And Ahidjo said, no, they can come. They are our brothers. We were one country under the German. It was not more the plebiscite or the United Nations decolonization. It was that we were the same country under the Germans, and this was our territory. So that is the thing that happened with the plebiscite, that we voted in good faith to join the Republic of Cameroon. At the United Nations, they showed bad faith. They showed bad faith by voting against our independence, by voting against our joining them. It was bad faith. I want to emphasize that for two reasons. There are many reasons, but I'll mention just two. That Ahidjo himself, who was at the helm of things, in 1959, the Ahidjo stood before the United Nations and told the world body that if British Southern wanted to join them, it was going to be on the footing of equality, because they, the Republic of Cameroon, were not annexationists. They were not. They will join them on the basis of equality. Now, this was that same Ahidjo, this was the same Republic of Cameroon now voting that we should not join them, voting against our joining them, have annexed us. That was the first point. The second point is that the Republic of Cameroon, voting the way they did on the 21st of April, 1960, it was not there that they heard that we were going to join them. There was the negotiation between Foncha's government and Ahidjo's government before now. There were communiques, two alternatives. The first and the second communiques, they discussed the form of state. It was going to be a federation of two equal states. All those things, Ahidjo and Foncha signed, agreed. Then suddenly, in the United Nations, the Republic of Cameroon voted no. That was, I think, one of the highest moments that the United Nations has been embarrassed. The British government that proposed the plebiscite were embarrassed. And you can see how, with this embarrassment from the Republic of Cameroon, how the United Nations and the British, how they reacted to it. They didn't speak. Suddenly, the United Nations pulled out of the process of decolonization of southern Cameroon and left the British to handle the rest of the matter. After the 21st of April 1961 and the adoption of Resolution 1608, we hear nothing about the United Nations. They pulled out of the process. But let us go back to that Resolution 1608 and look at one or two major things. The first is that in paragraph 5, The United Nations rightly, the United Nations General Assembly rightly set up an international committee to make detailed preparations about Southern Cameroon's joining the Republic of Cameroon. The composition of that committee is international in character. There was the government of the British, of the United Kingdom, the government of the Southern Cameroons, and the government of the Republic of Cameroon. This committee was set up on the 21st of April 1961 to do this, to use the declared policies of the parties to prepare for Southern Cameroon's joining Republic of Cameroon on the 1st of October 1961. So the composition of that committee, the terms of reference, and the timeline between April 21st and 1st October is clear. It's clear in paragraph 5 of Resolution 1608. Now, we, to even today, do not know where and when that committee met. That committee did not tender its report. That committee presumably never met. And if they did not meet, did not do its work, on what terms, was the arrangement of Southern Cameroon joining the Republic of Cameroon? That was your own answer, your own idea, and my own. Your own answer is as good as my own. But while that committee did not do its work, did not report, it simply means that the United Nations had taken action on what should be done before the joining. That was not done. The entire Resolution 1608 has never been implemented since it was adopted. And the central reason is clear. The central reason is that the Republic of Cameroon came in on the last minute to embarrass the world body. When a member state, not just the Republic of Cameroon, votes on a matter before the United Nations against an action that the United Nations wants to implement, which affects that country, that measure cannot be pushed through. That means, according to the Charter of the United Nations, Article 2, Sub 7, under this article, the United Nations was placed at a corner. One can imagine the whole of the Republic of Cameroon rejoicing that day, because what they did cornered the United Nations. They could not move out from that corner. They could not implement the decision that we joined them, because the vote of the Republic of Cameroon against our joining them was like had the weight of a veto. When I use the word veto, somebody may say it is only the 5 countries in the Security Council that have veto votes. Yes, that is true. But the weight of this Republic of Cameroon refusing Southern Cameroon from joining them, voting against it, had the weight of a veto. Because the United Nations, in accordance with Article 2.7, could not enforce it. They could not. And so what the United Nations did, surprisingly, was to walk out, pull out, fall out of this plebiscite. They left it. They left Britain to the administering authority to solve the problem, because after all, they introduced the matter as administrative authority to the United Nations. And what did the British do? We know it all. In the end, the British transferred the territory, the people, the colony, the British colony of Southern Cameroons. We are calling Southern Cameroons, it was actually British Cameroons. But we in Southern Cameroons accept the of British Cameroons into Northern Cameroons and Southern Cameroons. We are not here to argue about Northern Cameroons because we think just here on this date and on this resolution, the United Nations divided British Cameroons into Northern Cameroons and Southern Cameroons. And so when we talk of Cameroons as a United Nations Trust territory, we are only accepting that division. We accept it. And incidentally, on the vote of whether Northern Cameroons voted to join Nigeria, and on that day, Nigeria voted for Northern Cameroon's independence. Nigeria voted for Northern Cameroons to join them. So actually, Northern Cameroon joined Nigeria in conformity, in harmony with international law. But for the British government to have transferred Southern Cameroons to the Republic of Cameroons, when actually that country voted no, there's something there which I don't want to say. You can draw your conclusion. We think that after the Republic of Cameroon voted no against our independence, no against our joining them, the right thing, the right path, the right solution at that time was to abort, was to stop that process of the plebiscite and go back to the Charter of the United Nations and go to the trusteeship agreement and grant the independence of Southern Cameroon on the basis of the Charter and the trusteeship agreement. But they did not. We are not saying this to cry over spilled milk. We said that's the point where the abortion should have taken place. They still aborted the process later on. They still aborted the process of the plebiscite later on by transferring, by Her Majesty's government transferring the whole territory to the Republic of Cameroon. You make your own judgment. I'm going to come back to this in part 2. But while the General Assembly's committee set in paragraph 5 of Resolution 1608 did not tender any report, while this whole resolution has never been implemented, something extraordinary happened. And what is that? It is that between that 21st of April and the 1st of October, the Republic of Cameroon summoned a bilateral talks in Fumban between his country, between Republic of Cameroon and Southern Cameroons. And they said it was to write a constitution. And the Republic of Cameroon did not produce, that conference did not produce any new constitution. He just simply picked the constitution of his country, revised it, and promulgated it into law, signed it into law, and imposed on Southern Cameroons even before 1st October. Now, I said that was extraordinary for several reasons. One, that the Republic of Cameroon is given an assignment by the UN General Assembly the Republic of Cameroon, that is a member of the United Nations General Assembly or the United Nations, is given an official assignment to serve on a committee to make preparations for another country joining them. And the Republic of Cameroon does not, fails to cooperate with the United Nations assignment, pulls out of that assignment and convenes a separate, a different meeting, and took upon itself to draw a constitution for the federation that was to be formed between Southern Cameroon and Republic of Cameroon. That was like a counter current. That was another program apart from the United Nations own. And this point, I want us to stop a little and ponder over this point, because this point is what is happening now. This point is at the heart of the problem that we're having now, with people saying dialogue, and they cannot define one thing. Is that dialogue an internal matter to the Republic of Cameroon, or it's an international matter? This is crucial for us in Southern Cameroon to understand. This is crucial for the Republic of Cameroon to understand, and to anybody who wants to intervene in the Southern Cameroon matter to facilitate the solution to the matter. This is Fumban that was unauthorized. Nobody in the United Nations authorized the Republic of Cameroon to take on an aspect of the decolonization of a territory, the Southern Cameroons, and handle it as a domestic matter to its country. We want to ask, we are not challenging, we are just asking anybody in the United Nations to show us where any other country that was decolonized, the United Nations did part of the job and another country finished it. The Fumban Conference was illegal. It was a countercurrent to the plans and work of the United Nations, and it's something that the United Nations General Assembly ought to condemn. They ought to condemn, because the Republic of Cameroon had no right, had no permission from anybody to leave the work that was under the jurisdiction of the United Nations and undertake it as a domestic matter. And from that time, the United Nations, the Republic of Cameroon, sees the matter of Southern Cameroon as its internal, as its domestic matter. This is the source of the matter of Southern Cameroon being a domestic matter to Republic of Cameroon. Is it right? Is it right that while something was under the jurisdiction of the United Nations, Republic of Cameroon snatches it, treats it in Fumban, and later on, 7 months later, in Boloa, the president of the CU, Mr. Ahijo, derides or laughs, ridicules the fact that his country, a sovereign state, was asked to sit on a table with a territory that had no international recognition as equals. That it was unthinkable. The words are unthinkable that people so thought that it was the thing that was to happen in Fumban was something between two equal states. That's the same Ahijo. That is a government responsible head of state blowing hot and cold. So to start this matter of dialogue, to solve the problem, we have to start with defining whether this matter is an international matter or is an internal matter to the Republic of Cameroon. If we are saying that what Cameroon did in Fumban by taking southern Cameroon apart and treating the matter as an internal matter was right, okay, let's say it. But if we are saying, if we see the point of view of the southern Cameroons, that we are an annexed territory, that this whole thing since 1961 has been the illegal occupation of our territory, yes, the talks can still go on. But we want in this talk to propose something to resolve that, the beginning of this dialogue. It has to be resolved before we start the dialogue. I think UN at this point will say UN Resolution 1608 was adopted, but the plebiscite process was aborted, unfinished, and the striking thing about adopting unfinished, I better explain that. Before the plebiscite, the Trusteeship Council asked both Nigeria, as the administering authority, to invite both the Republic of Cameroon and Nigeria to give the constitutional arrangement. What should be the constitutional arrangement if Southern Cameroons voted to join this or this? And both did. Nigeria gave complete, full constitutional arrangement. Many pages. Everything that was supposed to be said was said. The Republic of Cameroon did as if they had not been preparing. They gave an outline. But the major things were stated in the outline. So Southern Cameroons actually did not sign a blank check. But what happened was that it was clear in the two alternatives that if Southern Cameroons voted to join the Republic of Cameroons, there would be a post-plebiscite conference where the details of that outline will be ironed out. And further, and I think this tilted vote influenced the electorate in the Southern Cameroons, that post-plebiscite conference, the United Nations and the administering authority were to be associated with that conference. In other words, they were to attend that conference, post-plebiscite conference, in the event that Southern Cameroons voted to join the Republic of Cameroon. This was the understanding before the plebiscite. This was in the two alternatives. Well, those of you who have read, there is some trickish thing there put by the administering authority, which they cannot argue, that they also said that the attendance, acceptance, the coming association of the United Nations would be subject to its approval, subject to its acceptance. That was a cunning thing that should not have even appeared. Why would the United Nations have to accept first that it's going to play a part in the decolonization of a UN trust territory? Why should it accept first? And in any case, what actually practically happened, the United Nations never said no afterwards, never said they are not going to attend. So the arrangement before the plebiscite was there for a post-plebiscite conference to be attended by the UK and the UN. So after the 21st of April, after adopting this, the very Trusteeship Council that very trusteeship council, 3 days before the adopted resolution 1608, on the 18th of April, that trusteeship council made a report, a formal report to the General Assembly. That report is what at the level of the General Assembly was adopted as Resolution 1608. If you take that report and read through Resolution 1608, you will see that this is rightly the report of the Trusteeship Council of the 18th of April. Except one thing. Paragraph 6 of that report is missing in Resolution 1608. Resolution 1608 ends on paragraph 5. Where is paragraph 6? And what is paragraph 6? Paragraph 6 is reminding the General Assembly, the highest body, organ of the United Nations, of its commitment to the voters, to the electorate of Southern Cameroons about the post-plebiscite conference. So if you read that Resolution 1608 as a report from, or if you read the version of the report from the Trusteeship Council, after setting up the committee in paragraph 5 to do the detailed arrangement, paragraph 6, the United Nations General Assembly is asked to send a 3-man expert team to the post-plebiscite conference, a constitutional and administrative 3-man team from different states of the United Nations to assist the Southern Cameroons in the post-plebiscite conference. This paragraph is missing, and we have a right to ask. This was a commitment before the plebiscite. The Trusteeship Council is faithful to remind the United Nations of this commitment, to propose what action should be taken practically. Where is that paragraph 6 in Resolution 1608? Why is it not there? Or alternatively, we can say that, and this is still correct, the United Nations plebiscite was aborted. It was stopped when prematurely, no, it was aborted unfinished. This is the point here. When the United Nations ends here, when there was the proposal that it should participate as it committed itself to do, and the United Nations was not there, and the decolonization of the Southern Cameroons was left to the Republic of Cameroon to do it as an internal matter to the Republic of Cameroon, there's something wrong there. There's something wrong there. So before I finish this part, let me just ask some simple questions that we in Southern Cameroons have on our mind about the injustice that was done in our own decolonization. There are 3 questions. 1, on what grounds does the United Nations and the UK, on what grounds did they allow the process of the decolonization of a trust territory to be finished by a UN member state as a domestic matter to that state? This is a legitimate question that the people of Southern Cameroon would like to raise. I repeat it again. On what grounds does the United Nations and the United Kingdom allow the process of the decolonization of a trust territory to be finished by a UN member state as a domestic matter to that state? 2, when and where did the Tripartite International Committee of paragraph 5 of Resolution 1608 tender its report? There is nowhere that we know where this committee was set up. We know the terms of reference. We know when it was supposed to finish its work. But we have never heard where it met, and what it said. So what went wrong? We're not asking, we are not judging anybody. It's just a legitimate question by the people of Southern Cameroon. Finally, and thirdly, what happened to the paragraph 6 of Trusteeship Council report of 18th April 1961, which was a reminder to the General Assembly of the United Nations commitment to the Southern Cameroon's electorate on the plebiscite and proposing the steps to be taken by the General Assembly to honor their commitment to the people of Southern Cameroon. What happened to that paragraph 6 of the report of the Trusteeship Council of 18th April 1961? These are three questions which the people of Southern Cameroon raise in connection with their decolonization. I want to go now to part B. In part B, I will be speaking on the Southern Cameroons and the United Kingdom. And my focus here will be two things. As I said, if you cannot read the Charter of the United Nations, please just open to Article 73 and Article 76. These are the central things. I want to speak more on the obligation and the sacred trust, which is found in Article 73 of the United Nations Charter. In other words, those administering trust territories undertook an obligation, and it is said that that obligation was like a sacred trust to human civilization. And throughout the charter, anything about the trustship, the interest of the people of the trust territory is emphasized. And I think I'm not in this talk trying to judge, to make a court, to judge the administering authority. Nobody in Southern Cameroon wants to do that. But we have questions to raise which are legitimate as a people who have become victims to what was done. Let's go back to what happened after the adoption of the Resolution 1608. The plebiscite process was aborted, it was abandoned, unfinished. The Tripartite International Conference Committee in paragraph 5 never met. In fact, the entire Resolution 1608, even until now that I speak, has never been implemented. So why should there not be a conflict? Why should there not be a conflict? The story, those who have read Okonkwo's, Chinua Acheb's first novel, Things Fall Apart, towards the end of the novel, the village of Okonkwo, the elders go out to sacrifice a Kemafuna, a boy who was growing up in Okonkwo's house and knew that Okonkwo was his father, although he was just adopted into the family. And they were carrying this boy to go and sacrifice. But when they struck the first machete on that boy, the writer, this boy runs the line of elders to the one inside that group that he knew was his father, he knew would protect him, he knew would rescue him, That was Okonkwo. And as he came to him and said, Father, they want to kill me, Okonkwo removed a machete and finished the boy. I thought of this story. I read it many years ago when the novel first came out. And I thought of this story with what has happened with Southern Cameroons. When the people of the Republic of Cameroon declared war, it was an open declaration. Ahidjo declared war, Biya declared war at the Simalen airport, that he was going out to war, he was going to attack terrorists and secessionists. Actually, before now, no terrorist activities had ever been reported in the southwest or in the northwest. But Biya called us terrorists and carried guns to come and attack us. He was going to attack secessionists, and the position of the Southern Cameroons for all 57 years. We have talked about it till today. We still say it. We are not seceding. Secession is out of the question because we have never ever joined. We voted to join these people, and these people voted that we should not join them. So there is no instrument, no legal instrument in the United Nations, anywhere in the world, to show that we had ever joined the Republic of Cameroon. And when they picked up the gun to come and force assimilating us into one and indivisible Cameroon, the very first country that we turned our face to for protection and defense and help openly was the United Kingdom. For obvious reasons. This was like our own father, our own guardian, our own administering authority, and we were shocked that the United Kingdom did to us what Okonkwo did to Ekemefuna. We're surprised that the United Kingdom was speaking on behalf, became an ally to the Republic of Cameroon. United Kingdom was going to buy Southern Cameroon's gas from Biya to help Biya with resources to buy arms to attack us. That was stabbing the Southern Cameroons in the back. Anyway, that be that as it may, we want to go over a few things. First, let us look at what our former administering authorities, the United Kingdom, says. There are three important things that the United Kingdom says about the Southern Cameroon's matter. First, we have it in writing from the government of the United Kingdom that the UK completed her trusteeship assignment in Southern Cameroon, and all the UN texts attest to this. We have it in writing from Her Majesty's government. All the United Nations texts support the fact that they completed their assignment successfully. That is the one thing they said. The second thing is that the second position of the United Kingdom is that the UK recognizes the outcome of the UN plebiscite in Southern Cameroon in 1961, which the UN also recognized. That's the second position. And the third position of the UK government is that Her Majesty's government recognizes the territorial integrity of Cameroon, of the Republic of Cameroon. Let us for a moment go over these points. That the United Kingdom completed its assignment, and all the texts of the United Nations attest to this. Let us start with the one we have talked about, 1608. In paragraph 5, that the United Nations General Assembly set up that committee. The people of Southern Cameroon were sure the United Nations is going to participate in that committee, were the ones who convene that committee. And if it was not convened by the United Nations, it was to be convened by the administering authority, either in New York or in London. What happened? So, till today, 1608 has never been implemented. But I will not go through all the resolutions of the United Nations. We want to select only one or two. And the second one we should talk about is Resolution 1514. Resolution 1514 of the UN. And we are not judging Her Majesty's government. We are not a court. But there are certain things we have a right to ask. When Her Majesty's government says that all the texts attest to her doing her work well, we want to draw attention to Resolution 1514, and I have it here. I'm going to read only paragraph 5 of UN Resolution 1514, which says, immediate steps shall be taken in trusts and non-self-governing territories or all other territories which have not yet attained independence to transfer all powers to the people of those territories without any conditions or reservations. This is what the United Nations Resolution 1614 states. And we are wondering if Her Majesty's government could say to which authority in Southern Cameroon did they transfer power when they left? I repeat the question again. It talks about, 1514 talks about the transfer of power to the people of the trust territory. We also have the instrument signed by Her Majesty's government on the 27th of September 1961 by Her Majesty's government ambassador, Ambassador C.E. King in Yaoundé. The title of the instrument is Exchange of Notes between the United Kingdom and the Cameroon Republic on the transfer of the trust territory of the Southern Cameroons to the Republic of Cameroon, Yaoundé, 27 September 1961. And we are not judging Her Majesty's government here, but we have a right to know to which authority in Buea, in southern Cameroons did the government transfer power in keeping with Resolution 1514 when they left southern Cameroons? When they transferred the instrument here, I've read the title, says that it was a note exchange of notes transferring the territory of southern Cameroons to the Republic of Cameroon. We want to know several things, but the two key ones was what United Nations instrument gave authorized not power transfer to the people of the trust territory, but to transfer the territory itself to a neighboring country. So what instrument of the United Nations was that? We should be glad to know it affects us, and we are repeating that we are not a court, but we ought to know. It helps to solve the problem in which we are. And when Her Majesty's government now says that they recognize the outcome of the plebiscite in southern Cameroons in 1961, which the UN also endorsed. We have heard this particularly from the Minister in the British government for African Affairs. And when she says this, it seems she's implying that because the people of southern Cameroons voted to join the Republic of Cameroons, that is where they belong until the Lord Jesus comes back to earth. They are permanently part of that country. If that is what she means, if not, this is not what she means, I'm sorry about it. But this is implied in this position that they recognize the outcome of the UN plebiscite in southern Cameroons, and the United Nations also recognized it. It looks as if it was a legislation. Some legislation by somebody which was carved on stone. The first thing that comes to our mind when we hear this from a minister of Her Majesty's government is ambivalence. Ambivalence. It looks like Her Majesty's government is blowing hot and cold. Why? I have said we are not judging Her Majesty's government, but we would like to talk, we would like Her Majesty's government to listen, and those listening to me, to listen to Her Majesty's government speaking before the plebiscite in southern Cameroons. Her Majesty's government before the plebiscite and what Her Majesty's government is saying now. The thing that was worded in the plebiscite was a problem even to authorities of the British government in Buea. And they were wondering precisely how to implement a proposal by the United Nations that it was independence by joining, and how this joining, an agreement had been made that it was going to be a federation of two equal states. And this is what the position of Her Majesty's government then. If at midnight the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroons is transmitted to the Republic of Cameroon, the people of Southern Cameroons do not at that moment achieve independence. They lose their own identity and become subjects of the Republic of Cameroon. It may well be that within a matter of minutes, hours, or days, the Republic will by an act of state transform itself into a federation of two states composed of the former Republic of Cameroon and the Southern Cameroons. The Southern Cameroons will then have achieved independence not by joining the Republic of Cameroon, but after joining the Republic of Cameroon. In order that the people of the Southern Cameroons may achieve independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon, it is necessary that the Federation should come into existence at midnight of 1st October. At one and the same moment, there will be born the independent state of the Southern Cameroons and the Federation of the United Cameroon Republic. The Federation would be a free association of independent and equal sovereign states. I repeat that last sentence. The Federation will be a free association of independent and sovereign states. This is Her Majesty's government talking here. And I'm reading this, quoting this from the declassified documents, declassified files on the Southern Cameroons. So, is Her Majesty's government blowing hot and cold? More on ambivalence. Let's take this passage here. It says, the people of the Southern Cameroons accepted joining the Republic of Cameroon after considering the constitutional offers which the Republic made in the two communiques. Those communiques have become the terms of a constitutional contract which the Republic of Cameroon is obliged to honor and has agreed to honor. It is submitted that it is clear beyond peradventure that the Republic of Cameroon has contracted to receive the Southern Cameroons as an equal sovereign state and at one and the same time to form with it a federation of two equal sovereign states. I'd like to repeat that last sentence. It is submitted that it is clear beyond peradventure that the Republic of Cameroon has contracted to receive the Southern Cameroons as an equal sovereign state and at one and the same time to form with it a federation of two sovereign states. That is Her Majesty's government before the plebiscite. And again, this is taken from the declassified files on the Southern Cameroons. The ambivalence aside, the final point is that the British government says she recognizes the territorial integrity of the Southern Cameroons. This, to us in Southern Cameroons, is equivocation. It is equivocation. Why do we say that? It is ambiguity, which we don't know if it is aimed to please the people of the Republic of Cameroon or to please the people of Southern Cameroons. Why? Because, again, let me emphasize, we are not in a court trying Her Majesty's government. But our own the understanding of territorial integrity. as a principle in international law. Territorial integrity is the principle under international law that prohibits states from the use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of another state. This is a principle in international law. This principle is enshrined in Article 2, Sub 4 of the United Nations Charter. Article 2, Sub 4 of the UN Charter. Conversely, the principle states that imposition of a border change is an act of aggression. Thus, Republic of Cameroon is a signatory to the AU Constitutive Act, and Southern Cameroon's in Communication 337/2007 of was asking the Republic of Cameroon to either respect its recognized international independence or prove her territorial claim over the Southern Cameroons on Article 4B of this treaty. Republic of Cameroon, as we all know, chose to invade the South. So when Her Majesty's government recognizing the territorial integrity of Cameroon, we don't know whether she is in support of the UN Constitutive Act and Article 4B, which says that the recognized international boundary of each state on the continent of Africa that is a member of the AU is that boundary which they had at independence, and therefore supporting the Southern Cameroon's case at the African Commission that the Republic of Cameroon should be found in violation of Article 4B of the Constitutive Act. Whether this is the position the British government is talking about, or when she talks of recognizing the territorial integrity of Cameroon, she means that Southern Cameroon is part of the Republic of Cameroon. If it is the latter, then Her Majesty's government should assist her ally, the Republic of Cameroon, in what we are going to demand in this at the end of this talk. The purpose of this whole review of our matter is to ask the Republic of Cameroon to put out to the public the justification, her claim, the legal instrument by which she guns to fight Southern Cameroon of its country. We want to ask the Republic of Cameroon to put out that legal instrument public before we go negotiation. Let me make the last point, Her Majesty's government, and that is we watched the process of Brexit, and this was a referendum in which the people of the UK voted to leave the EU. While the UK of the UK, the EU, nobody ever told Prime Minister Edward Heath that you voted to join the EU, you can never ever leave. Nobody ever told the British that you are part of the EU, will never leave. We don't see why anybody anywhere would tell the people of Southern Cameroons that you voted to join the Republic of Cameroons, that is where you belong, you will never leave. Two principles have been established by Brexit. One is that the decision to join implies the right to leave. And the British have said that as a principle. We think that even if we had joined the Republic of Cameroon, so far we have been emphasizing that we have never joined. Even if we had joined, we have a right to leave. The other principle that has been established by the British in Brexit is that we have also followed the twists and turns of the debates, the House of Parliament, the elected people of the kingdom deciding which way things should go, which way, and we want to draw the attention of Her Majesty's government that in Southern Cameroons to the Republic of Cameroons, this bypassed not only the resolution 1514 that I mentioned, they bypassed the elected government of the people in Boya, they bypassed parliament, the parliament of Southern Cameroons, and handed Southern Cameroons people and territory to the Republic of Cameroon. And the Republic of Cameroon has been arguing ever since that we were a gift to them. In fact, a minister in the Biya government said before CRTV cameras that this is a territory that was ceded to them. But as to whether Southern Cameroons was ceded or what, it is only the British government, Her Majesty's government, that can answer that claim. To us, it's a claim, and we want the Republic of Cameroon to put out the legal instrument by which they claim us, Southern Cameroons, to be part of the country to the extent of carrying guns to kill our people. In this, what is happening in Cameroon now, the killing of our people, is to stop the killing of our people, is the priority. And of course, the other things which we have mentioned before are important. And to stop the injustice that was done to our people. Before the United Kingdom, we want to sincere thanks to the British people, members of Parliament, who have seen the injustice that was done to our people, who have seen the irony of the position of the British government and are raising questions on behalf of the people of Southern Cameroons. We want to thank you, and we want to say we are raise our hopes. Definitely, the present position in which we are not going to go back. We are going to defend our borders. We are going to defend our right to be free and our independence that was granted. So thank you, peace. Thank you, members of the House of Lords, for what is happening. Now, finally, the people of the Republic of Government and people of the Republic of Cameroon, you took up guns to fight the terrorists. What you call terrorists. It's unfortunate that the head of state selected to use language of hate. And it is even worse that our people, our population, our youths have been slaughtered in what we think is pure, undefendable, unestablished position. You claim that we are seceding. We would like to say, we have said two things. You have said, given things that should not be discussed as conditions. We have said ceasefire. That should be done in the open. We have said our leaders should be released from prison. That should be done in the open, and we see them. We brief them. We know that you are trying to tie the hand of our first leader there to twist his arm and force him to do things to divide us. All the same, that condition stands. All our little leaders, all our people should be released. And thirdly, you declared war to attack us on the basis that we were a part of your country. The third thing that should be done before we can start any talks, the first thing and important thing is that you should make public the legal instruments, the Treaty of Union, whatever instrument you have that we joined you, that we are part of you. What we know and can prove is that from the end of the First World War, French Cameroon and British Cameroon were separate states. We know that under the United Nations, after the Second World War, French Cameroon and British Cameroon were separate United Nations Trust territory. We know that you had your independence on a separate date, and we had ours on a separate date. If we are part of you, it is not a gentleman's agreement. There must be an instrument which you can put in public. States don't join by verbal agreement or by gentleman's agreement. We want you to put out that instrument, public, for the public to see and defend your position. Until we see that, we are not going to sit down and talk with somebody who has slaughtered our people and who is slaughtered on false, based on falsehood. We voted in good faith to join you. You responded in bad faith and voted against our independence and against our joining you. And you want to reconcile that. You want to show how that vote became here ruling us. You are claiming to govern us. If you cannot produce that instrument, we want to give you, it's not an ultimatum, but we want to give you 7 days with which to put that instrument out. If within 7 days we don't see a public broadcast by either your head of state or representative of the government of the La Republique, we are going to assume that you have none. You have no instrument. We believe you have none, but it is you to prove the opposite. Come out with the instrument by which Southern Cameroons became part of the Republic of Cameroon in an instrument registered in the United Nations in accordance with Article 102. We want to give you 7 days to do that, and we will respond. We'll continue this talk. And this talk, by then, will welcome questions and so on. Thank you, listeners. May God bless Southern Cameroons.